I'm going to show you now how to set up drawing cards so that you'll be able to build skeletons and models off those cards. Here we go. First thing to think about is how big you want your character to be, and we're going to keep everything square, 100% square, because in Photoshop we made sure that the images that we exported were 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, so I know that the UVs and everything are going to line up perfectly on this square. And so I'm working at 1/10 scale, so this is approximately 2 meters. So next step is to assign shaders to this so that you can actually see the images that we've created. So to do that, I need to go into the hypershade. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use surface shaders, Maya surface shaders. I'm going to make 2 of them. And I'm going to assign 1 to the front and 1 to the side. Then I'm also going to create 2 file nodes. You'll notice they are square. Now there's a little bit of jockeying you got to do here, because you'll notice that their feet aren't actually lined up at 0, and so if I'm going to lay down a model or lay down a rig, I want to make sure that their feet are at 0. And then what I want is I want to make sure that this is in the middle, right through the middle of the body. So I've got it there. And then on the side view, I want to make sure that this is running right through the center of the body. So I'm going to kick it back a little bit. Tend to think about like the hips to the shoulders, right through the neck, in terms of lining up, if it's this kind of character. The one other thing that you can do that's really helpful in the hypershade is to add, so you can easily control the transparency, is to add a ramp node. Just make sure that this ramp node is just one color. And I'm going to pipe this same color into the transparency for both of these. I change its value. I can, give it a little bit of transparency, so when I'm building stuff I can sort of see through it, which is really kind of nice and helpful. Cool. So once I have that, now I've got my cards and I'm ready to actually begin to build my model or set up my pre-rig skeleton. Once you have the cards brought back in, I've gone through and kind of just laid out the proportions of where things should be just by moving and adjusting the fit skeleton to the sizes of the drawing. Being mindful of putting the fit skeleton's rotate value for the eye in the middle of the eye, and making sure that the jaw point is where the jaw is supposed to be, and that the center of the head is near where the ear kind of would be. And then you just build advanced skeleton. The next step to kind of building a PreVis skeleton for this, so that I can actually start building a pre-visualization, would be coming all the way down here and in this thing called geometry polyboxes. He has this ability to kind of create boxes, and you'll see, if you always click his little help page, you'll see, oh, it's going to build these little things. Well, if you had a speed sculpt, you could also crop sections of the model out as well using one of these 2 methods. And it's going to basically put a box on every joint. Alright, once you get the polyboxes created, the next step really is kind of just resizing the polyboxes so that they kind of fit your character design. I usually hide a few of these because you don't need some of them. Like the jawbone box, just Control H it, and the clavicles. And then from here, it's going through and selecting all the boxes and getting a rough sense of the scale. And I tend to do these from the front and side view, just to kind of get a feel for like what the general width is, like what the smallest is, and then I'm going to go from there. And so from here, you can individually, you know, manipulate the vertices if you're so inclined. And then you go through and you do this for each and every single one. Where it gets particularly difficult is if you wanted to try to actually sculpt the exact shape. You don't have to get too close. All right. And so then with the head, I would add some subdivisions to it. One of the neat features that he has over here is you can see this left to right, right to left thing. So what we can do is once I've got these kind of positioned or sculpted the way I want, you can just go right to left. And it gets it because it uses the right side to the left side. Now that I got the polyboxes done, the next step is I need to add color to the faces so that it'll feel more like our original character. The way I'm going to do this, first and foremost, is I'm going to hide the polyboxes, and I'm going to go to the front view, and I have to build a couple shaders that just have these essential colors. Easiest way to do it is come in, click on that, hit the eyedrop, and go boom. And as I select, I want to name what this is. Now that I have these, the next step is basically just to assign them. Because we don't have separate geometry, this is all like one piece, right? These two are separate pieces. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab faces. Alright, so now I've got all my shaders assigned, and it's good to go. Now that we've got it all textured, we just have to add the eyes. You can snap using holding V down, vert snap, and you'll see how it snaps to verts. But it will also snap to joints with V held down, which is really useful. So I want it actually to snap on that joint right there. And I'm going to rotate her 90 degrees. And if you hold J down when you rotate, it snaps in 15-degree increments by default. And now you're going to notice, see this right here, that the eye itself, it's like, oh man, it's falling inside. Well, that's because this needs another loop where the eye is. And just to make sure that my size is working, I'm going to turn on my cards again. Kind of look at it from the front view. And, oh man, I can't see it, right? Well, grab that. There we go. You'll notice, get the size right. Now these weren't placed exactly in the center this way where it needs to be. So if you wanted to change that, you have to go back to the fit skeleton and then rebuild it. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if we go up, rebuild complete, and look, it kept all the colors, kept all the sizes. Yay. So now all that's left to do is parent this to this curve. So then you just select the surface and the curve, and then you hit P, and it parents it, and I select the surface and the curve, and I hit P, and it parents it, and so now, you know, if I move this thing, you'll see the eyes themselves rotate. But since it's kind of like a 2D look, if you just grab the curve, you can scale it. Whoop. You know, so you could get some kind of goofy looks. And if you hit build, it goes back to the center. And now, I'll use the Walk Designer. And there we have it, your PreVis rig, ready to be animated.